Welcome, I'm Darren, and I'll be your guide today as I look at 1992 Score Baseball. This set is, if it's not the culmination of Score card design, it's right up there with it. I think that personally, I think the 1991 football is a little bit better, but this is about as good as Score could possibly get, and they would kind of remember themselves and fall back into not as good card designs following this up, starting with football in 1992. But for the 1992 Score Baseball set, this was where they really got everything together and were truly hitting above their pay grade. And as a result, we get some really great cards at a really good time, because at this time there was a lot of competition for designs and they really needed to be able to have cards that held up well. And this was kind of the culmination of an interesting progression they were going through starting in 1989, where they tended to do better card designs in football. They were kind of using the Topps model in a way, where they would make a card design in football and then they would basically take some of the lessons they'd learned and made a better baseball card in the following year, and then they would make a better football card and then a better baseball card design following that. And 1991 Score Football was a phenomenal card set, in part because they did the color fade in a very different way than they'd done before and made a truly refined card. But also on the card back, they refined that in a magnificent way too, to where the combination of the front and the back of the card was about as good as they could possibly make. And it was up there for all-time cards. It was that level of card design. It was great. And some of the subset cards were really good too. So they basically established a great precedent to use in future designs, which makes the fall off from 91 football to 92 football really dramatic. But they did something else in football in 1991, which was they released Pinnacle. Now, Pinnacle was not released in baseball. It was only in football and then in hockey. And this card set was designed more with a football mentality. So the way that the card design works is not really what you would expect in baseball. It's a gorgeous card, but it is a very complex card. And so the 1992 Score Baseball card is a combination of both of those. It really doesn't draw much on the card front from the previous years in baseball. It did on the card back, but not on the card front. And the card front you can see that it has kind of a blocky quality to it, which is done in a really well-refined way. It's really good. You can see the color fade on the side, and you can see the way that the strips work is the counterpoint color, which is what they love doing in baseball. So they had all of those components that work together. But something else that they played a trick with was they had the player falling out of frame into that area along the side. And by doing that, on a couple of occasions, it actually pulls the player out of the image. So the player is both in the image and out of the image for a really cool effect. Most of the time, you don't really get that transition, but on a few cards, it really does come out well. So I just figured I'd mention that. But the cards on the card back, this is pretty much just as good as the card front. It's really impressive. This is the same way that they'd been doing card backs in Score leading up to here, but here they got everything about right. They have the right size of image, they have the text is reading well, they have a gorgeous yellow color fade on the back, which works beautifully. It's not overpowering, but it creates a lot of excitement, and it really heightens all the colors around. And you can read all the text really well, so everything on this card back is perfectly balanced, it's perfectly proportioned, it's perfectly, the color balance, everything about it is great. So this is easily the best card back for Score in baseball. And card front, card back, they really couldn't do much better if they'd continued to pursue this. Now, thankfully for them, they remembered they were Score, so they fell back into poorer card designs in the future, but for this glorious year, we really got some great cards. And the cards, they again built the set as a 2-series set. So this was something they didn't do very often in baseball, but they did do it here for the second year in a row. And they did it in the same way, where they had a whole bunch of cards. They go through their different colors. There are 4 different colors they go through. And the cards, each set it ends with a bunch of subsets. So they're all standalone. And the card colors, they start off with green with blue, and then they have blue with, I guess it's kind of a raspberry color, and then they have I guess it's a dark peach with teal. And then they finish it up. The last group is basically purple with green as the accent. So that's the way that all four of these cards, the different color combinations for the cards. And on the card backs, they all have the yellow for the text field, so that doesn't change. And as they like to do, they like to put the prospects in the last color grouping. And most of the prospects do appear in the last grouping, primarily Series 2, but not all of them are in that grouping. Some of them actually are in the previous grouping, the one with the dark peach. So it was kind of interesting that they were there. That a few of them trickled into there. But the prospects, basically what they did was, you may notice there's kind of a notch of the color band down at the bottom of the card. Well, here in the prospects, they just filled that in with a band for the prospects wording. So that was the core of the set. That was the main cards in the set. But Score was really into doing subsets at this time, and so that's what really enlivens this card set. And some of these card sets are great. Not the first one that we're going to look at. They did a no-hit club, which is basically pitchers who pitched essentially perfect games, not true perfect games necessarily. And in this case, they went with a card that doesn't look anything at all like the rest of the cards in the set. This is obnoxious even by Score standards. It's basically just a big no and an image. And obviously I'm not a fan. They do have almost all these subsets come in both Series 1 and in Series 2. And so most of them are single players, but if there were multiple players on a team who had no hitters, then they have horizontally sort of oriented cards with those players on it, which I think look a lot better. But these are cards that really do have you wondering, where in the world did this come from? They also had a subset for highlights, like they did in pretty much every year. Here it's, again, Series 1 and Series 2. These cards actually kind of fit. They actually kind of work in this set simply because, even though they're very bold, that they do have the color fade in it, which fits in with the theme of the rest of the cards. And I think it kind of saves the card. This card should be overly obnoxious. That whole array of color coming up to the text, the explosion of it, it's a little bit too much, but with the color fade, it softens it enough that it makes it more playful and does a really good job of highlighting the players. So while I think it's not a great card, I like the card. It's one of those kind of situations where you go, okay, all right, yeah, I don't know how it worked, but it worked well enough. So those are kind of interesting cards. And in the Series 2 highlights cards, they have one card for the World Series, which is something they did every year. This is technically one of the highlight cards. It doesn't look like the rest of the highlight cards, but technically it is a highlight card. They also did All-Star cards similar to the previous year. Here it's big head art. I'm not okay with this art. This is art that I'm not good with it. The cards don't look like they don't belong in the set. They actually do kind of fit with, well, they don't fit with the set as much as you feel like, okay, this can be a part of the set. I'm not sure how. I guess it's just the Score text down at the bottom, but I liked the Score All-Star cards they did the previous year. I thought that those worked a bit better. And then before I get to the last subset that they did in both Series 1 and in Series 2, I want to talk about a couple of subsets that they did in only Series 2. Starting with what's not entirely a subset, but it's honors cards. And so this is Rookie of the Year or Man of the Year. It's a collection of cards that look at various players who were award winners, essentially award winners through the year. Score like to do kind of standalone cards, and these really do kind of fit with that. And they do look pretty good. Then they had draft picks, and the draft pick cards are not as overpowering, not as ostentatious as the previous year. Here I love the color fade. The way that they did the color fade really softens it and makes it almost delicate. So in this case, this looks to me like the only way that they could have done draft pick cards in this set. They're pretty good. Then they did a series of cards for Legends, and with these cards, it's a really gorgeous stylistic shot of memorabilia for the player. It's all laid out. This is mostly memorabilia from his playing days, but also some other elements in there to just kind of give you a feel for it. But each player has this really gorgeous shot for it, for all of the stuff on the front, and then on the card back they have a kind of a nice design, horizontal design, where they talk about the player. Gorgeous cards, and I would say these are easily the best cards in the set, except I've got a special place in my heart for the Dream Team cards. And this is the last set that they did in both Series 1 and Series 2. So the previous ones I've been talking about were only Series 2. Here, this was Series 1 and Series 2, but I actually don't think the Series 1 cards are as good. Setting that aside, these are all black and white images that kind of go with the Kostakis brothers posters mentality. These are wonderful artistic concepts that the photographers were able to play around with. You get some, because of the black and white color, you get a lot of really good contrast and a really good feel to these cards. And they are a lot of fun. In fact, they used one of these on every box cover. But that brings the set to a close. That was how they built the set. And then they sold these both in packs, but also in complete sets. But the complete sets came in both hobby and in retail versions. One of the boxes was blue, the other was red. And the reason I specify this is every complete set came with an insert set of 17 cards, all with the letter B. Like in the previous year, except this was a bigger set. And there's more complexity to this set than the 91 set. So the first portion of the set is looking at the different games of the World Series. These are 3/4 bleed cards, really, really nice cards. And then they follow that up with they'd done Cooperstown cards the previous year. Well, here they did 4 Cooperstown cards, and they're the same design. And that's the first 11 cards. Now's when it gets interesting. The last 6 cards of the set are 3 cards of Joe DiMaggio and 3 cards of Carl Yastrzemski. So 3 and 3, and these are numbered in 2 ways. One is 12 through 14 and then 15 through 17, but also they're numbered 1 through 3 out of 3 in each case. So they have subset numbers as well as set numbers. So there are 3 Joe DiMaggio cards, 1 through 3, and then 3 Yaz cards, 1 through 3. The Joe DiMaggio cards all have black and white shots. The Yaz cards are all in color, which is kind of interesting. And they both have a silver border around the outside. But this is where you really got to start paying attention, because the Joe DiMaggio cards have a red inner border, fine little border, you can see it mainly at the corners, and then a blue band down at the bottom, whereas Yaz has dark blue and then it has a green band. In one of the releases. In the other release, Joe DiMaggio also has a dark blue inner border and a green band, and Yaz has, well, the same thing. The Yaz border doesn't change, but the images do. So in both releases, there are 6 images, 3 and 3, and then those 6 images change, 3 and 3, in the other versions. So there are actually 2 versions of each one of these cards. So if you want to talk about original cards, it's a 17 card set that has 23 cards, 2 versions of each one of the legends. And then they did do inserts in the regular packs. The first one to talk about is actually, because Chuck Knobloch was the Rookie of the Year, they did a re-release of his rookie cards with autographs. And these are all individually numbered, so it's a limited release, but these did come in the 1992 packs. So you will find these and understand that they're not 1990 cards. Release-wise, they're 1992. They didn't release these autographed cards in 1990. So that's kind of a unique thing here in this set. But they also did inserts in both Series 1 and in Series 2. And the first of the releases is Joe DiMaggio. This is a small card set, and each one of these cards is horizontal. It's a fun little set, but there was an autographed card as well that came. These were all serial numbered out of 2,500. So this also comes with an autographed version. And likewise, they did a release of 4 cards, a set of 4 cards that have 3 different legends. They have Stan Musial, they have Mickey Mantle, and they have Yaz. And these are green borders on the top and the bottom with an image down below where the color treatment looks all about the same. It's actually a really well designed card. And then the 4th card is a card with all 3 of the players. And with this, in this case, they have autographed versions of each one of these cards. So all of the standalone autographs of Musial, Mantle, or Yaz, those are individually serial numbered out of 2,000, and then the combination is serial numbered out of 500. So it's far more rare to get the 3 autographs on the same card. But these all did come out of packs, and that was the extent to inserts that they were doing in this year. except for blister packs. Again, they did a Hot Rookies insert set for blister packs. This was not as ostentatious and overpowering as the previous year. Like with the draft picks in the regular set, these Hot Rookies are a lot softer in terms of their overall impact. The color fade, the whole thing. I like these a lot. I do like the previous year because of just how they owned it. In this case, I like that they kind of softened it a little bit. And while I did say that those were the only inserts, actually I should have specified those were the only inserts for the main packs. They also had jumbo pack inserts for their impact players. And this is Series 1 and Series 2, so it's a pretty big set. And these cards you got them in every single pack, so they weren't like special things that you got. So this was the kind of set that you could put together pretty quickly. And the cards are full bleed cards, and they're actually pretty good designs. I like how they worked. They do have kind of a similarity to the Team 2000 cards that you would see in Pinnacle. But regardless, so these are nice. And then they again did, as they'd been doing year after year, they did their Rising Stars and their Superstars. Here, again, they're going with color fade. These are very bold color cards. They're nice cards. And if you got them in the box, so they came in two releases. They either came in blister packs where you got almost like a program, a booklet. That's the way that they usually came. These also came in a box which included a small set of trivia cards for the World Series. So this was the last time they were doing trivia cards. They did not do these in the main packs. They only did these in the Rising Stars and in the Superstars. And then they also did a Rookies set as well. This is the only glossy card release that they did here for 1992. And this is basically kind of what you're used to. And then the only other release they did was a special deal with Procter & Gamble. And this is a card set that is very, very, very common. You're going to run into this all over the place. These almost look more like Fleer than Score. They don't look anything like Score. In fact, they look more like they're becoming 1993, which I think kind of was the whole point. But that's it. That's all of the pieces of Score. So I think I've been able to get them all out, get everything out there so that you can pay attention, you know what all the details are. And starting out in 1993, they would begin to fall into the trap of making traditional 90s cards. This is the last time that they were focused more on the cards in the set, and then they would be getting more into the inserts and eventually into parallels. So obviously I'll be looking at those in other videos. This is I think this works well enough as a standalone. There's a little bit of complexity into it, but it doesn't get all that bad. But some of the subset cards, like I said, are gorgeous in this set. In the main card sets, I really wish that they could have recaptured the beauty of these cards, but the early 90s did have a lot of really, really, really impressive cards, because since the main card sets were what we collected, that's where all the emphasis, all the energy went into. And so that's what makes these cards work so well. So yeah, I hope that you've learned some stuff. Definitely check out the 1991 set, at least if you haven't seen that video. Check out my other videos if you haven't had a chance. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. And thank you very much for watching.